All right. Hello, hello, hello. Good afternoon, Facebook family and friends. Hello. It's a great afternoon. Wait a couple seconds for some people to join in with us as we'll start this and talk about today all things small business. Information session number 5. So we've seen somebody come in so far. And so as we're doing this, remember, this is all things small business. So if anyone has any questions or anything along the way, please, please, please post your questions and things of that nature so that we can include them. We want to make sure that we can have this all-inclusive, very informational and useful, as well as very relevant. So today, again, my name is Tiffany L. Hollinger, also known as Ask Tiffany H. And I have decided today, because there's so much information that is going on and things are moving at a rapid speed, to talk about resources that can be helpful for our small business entities. So we're talking all things small business as it relates to solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, micro enterprises, self-employed individuals, our barbershops, our beauty salons, our independent consultants, people who do event planning, realtors, financial advisors, all of those professions where we are either obtaining 1099s or we have income that is coming directly from our clients that are paying for our services, whether or not we have employees or it's just ourselves or we're small enterprises. We want to make sure that we get the information out to everyone. And so I wanted to have Danielle with us today with ECDI. I will have an opportunity to allow her to do justice to introduce herself in a moment. But as always, what I would love to do, and I like to do as previous, is just do a quick recap, because we're dealing with this very unusual time and we're having some unusual situations at this moment. We want to make sure that we can be financially stable as possible. And so while many of you know me as a realtor, I also have a background as a financial advisor. And coincidentally, so does my guest here is Danielle. And so I'm sure she'll be able to always piggyback on that as well. But as a quick recap, please, please, please make sure, one, we all prepare a budget. It is so important at a minimum that you at least write down your expenses so you can have a snapshot of what it is that you need to deal with, and you can then think about a plan of attack of how to address it. 2, call all of your creditors, okay, all of them, and ask them what resources, what assistance, and what programs they have available to help you. While some student loans have done an automatic, you don't want to be reactive. You want to be proactive to reach out to them and find out. All of your card financing people, you want to reach out to them and find out what they have available. All your credit card persons, the people that I've heard from, they've all indicated that each creditor that they've called, they've had a different response, which is true. Now, let me give a special note to your mortgage. Right now, a lot of mortgage lenders are in a flurry, trying to figure out what and how they can best assist people. So things are changing at lightning speed, and a lot of mortgage lenders and servicers, and there's a difference between the two, are still trying to figure out what they can do to provide assistance, what kind of guidelines that might be recommended from the federal level. And so those are still work in progress. So even if you talk to them before, follow up again with them this week and next week to see if there's any additional assistance that are being made available. Number 4, please, please, please prepare your tax returns. You don't want to be missed out. You don't want to miss out on this stimulus. Even if you say I make too much money and you're not, just let's still be financially prudent and prepare our tax returns. It's better to be in front of the curve than behind it. And lastly, while we're going through all of this, for those who are still working and still having income and you're utilizing these services, please take these resources and save them. Save, save, save. Not save because now I can go and fix these things in my house I always wanted to fix. Not save and like, oh, now I could go do these projects on my car. No, save these resources to save them. Because there's going to come a time when things do kind of come back to normalcy, and you'll be in a much better position to have a nest egg of resources to be able to weather the storm. And most importantly, we don't know. We don't have a crystal ball as to what's going to happen in the future. So it's better to have resources that you can lean upon to help you than not have it. So again, it's save, save, save. Leave it there. Not save and fix my house, not projects, not the save it. So with that being said, I would like to introduce Danielle with ECDI. And please, Danielle, tell us about yourself. What is ECDI? What does it stand for? And provide us the, again, high level information specifically for our micro enterprise, our solopreneurs, entrepreneurs, and independent contractors.
Sure. So thank you, Tiffany, for having me on your live broadcast. It's actually been a minute since I've been on Facebook Live, so I'm glad to make a reappearance here with you today. Again, as Tiffany said, my name is Danielle Sydnor. I am the Executive Director for ECDI, which stands for Economic and Community Development Institute. We are a nonprofit organization that is dedicated to providing small business lending, coaching and training, and technical assistance to entrepreneurs. Our focus is really to try and get affordable access to capital to disadvantaged business owners. So individuals that may have less than perfect credit, those that have sometimes backgrounds that make it challenging to access traditional forms of credit, or just maybe lower assets, and so may not have the amount of collateral and things that a traditional lending institution would be looking for. And also our startups. We know that most banks like to lend to people that are what they deem less risky. And so a brand new business that has had no revenue or less than 2 years of revenue, in most cases, is considered a startup. And so we do a lot of those as well. But again, our focus is to try and help a low to moderate income community. So 51% of the dollars that we lend need to be the people that would fall into that demographic. And then also people of color, women, immigrants, and refugees are really our target markets. And so then in general about some of the things that are going on right now. So COVID-19 has really hit the folks that we work with extremely hard, because at ECDI, we like to say we support Main Street type businesses. We support the boutiques, the small retailers, the auto mechanics, the restaurants, the food trucks, the hair and nail salons, the professional services, real estate agents, people who are out here grinding a lot of times on their own or just with a very small team. And so immediately as the crisis kind of began to unfold, we started working with the SBA directly on resources that would be available, trying to do as best that we could to educate ourselves and our teams about all the information that was coming down. And one thing that I continue to just kind of reinforce to my team is information is changing sometimes by the hour. We're getting guidance at something in the morning, and by the time we get to the end of the day, that information may be different. And so we appreciate the patience that the community has provided to us and many other technical assistance providers, and understanding that largely we are learning right along with you. While we are experts in a lot of the things that we do, this is all very new for all of us in terms of operating under this pandemic. So I really continue to urge you to look for a few credible resources and don't be overwhelmed by all the information that's coming out there. Sometimes with great intentions, people are sharing lots of things and it can just become overwhelming. So find one or two sources that you like and know and trust and continue to follow them, because most of us are trying to provide regular updates. So another thing that we're working on locally is ECDI, in partnership with Cuyahoga County, has worked over the last couple of weeks to stand up something that we're calling the Cuyahoga County Small Business Resource Center. This essentially is a tool to help try and direct traffic to all the different small business resource providers that are out there. So you have organizations like ECDI, the Hispanic Business Center, Urban League of Greater Cleveland, HFLA, Jumpstart, NDC, Ohio Means Jobs, which answers questions about unemployment, Skill Up for those businesses that want to think about how they can repurpose some of their staff, Downtown Cleveland Alliance, Cleveland Neighborhood Progress. So all of the organizations that are currently providing GCP, don't let me forget them, and President's Council, but all the organizations who are currently providing some level of small business support in the community right now, we are all here now to help small businesses in a more coordinated way. So individuals who are interested in getting assistance from any of these organizations, instead of having to fight and figure out which one you should call, you can call the hotline that has been set up. That number is 216-452-9714. Again, I'll repeat it again through the broadcast, but it's 216-452-9714. And so a few things will happen when you call that resource center. Number one, you're going to be greeted by someone who understands that you're frustrated and that you're in crisis and that you've probably called lots of places and nobody answers the phone. So they're going to answer the phone. You get a human being. And then they're going to ask you for contact information to ensure that they capture the fact that you've called in and then understand at a high level. So these are not business advisors themselves. They're really just helping to direct traffic to the different organizations that I mentioned. So they're going to ask you some general questions about the types of things that you might need assistance with. For a lot of our small business owners, we're still trying to navigate completing that SBA disaster relief loan. Maybe you've started, you got overwhelmed, you set it down, you're not really sure how to answer some of the questions. So because many of the organizations that I listed also receive support from the Small Business Administration, we're here to help you complete that SBA disaster relief loan. If you start to have specific technical questions about my website is crashing, or I applied for the loan and I haven't received a response, we're going to direct you back to the SBA for those specific questions. But things related to actually completing the application, what's my revenue, my net versus my gross, things like that, we're here to assist you with. The second thing that they will do is kind of understand, maybe you're just looking for general business advice. You know, folks like Tiffany and others who are putting out tips and tricks on things you should be thinking about. Many of the organizations that I listed as well are providing webinars. ECDI over the last week has done a series of different things. One is, how do you get your retail brick and mortar online as a result of this pandemic? So helping people pivot their businesses from what would typically relied on face-to-face interaction to as many types of online operations as possible. So if people are calling with general business questions, we're going to connect you with one of the providers that can help in that area as well. And finally, if you're looking for additional financial assistance outside of the federal programs, maybe you've already tried, you're still, you've tried that process and you need a little bit more assistance, then we do have some providers that have either lending programs or grant programs available, and then we can connect you with one of those providers as well. So finally, I would say the other part of the Small Business Resource Center that hopefully Friday details of eligibility and all this should be announced is the Small Business Stabilization Fund through Cuyahoga County. And so a couple of weeks ago, Armin Budish, the county executive, announced that they were launching this $3 million fund that would be a combination of grants and loans. And I say that because I understand that there are many business owners right now who are like, I don't want to see a loan. And I understand that, right? However, when we're talking about resources, we do know that there are everybody is in need. I can't say a lot of people in need. Every business has been impacted by this. And some businesses went into this crisis with more cash reserves than others. But regardless of the size of business, everybody is being impacted. And so we will have some grants available, but we will also have some loans available with a variety of different terms to try and meet the demand that's going to be out there. So for those that may be interested in understanding specific things about the County Stabilization Fund program, we're encouraging you. I'm going to give you this website, and again, we can post it. It's cuyahogacounty.us/help for business. So the no.coms.orgs, a lot of people were adding things to it, and then they said the website doesn't work. So it's just cuyahogacounty.us/help for business. The first thing that you will see on there when you go on is the pre-application survey. So if you're interested in finding out more about any of the grant or loan programs that are going to be available directly through the county, you have to go fill out the survey. You can call, which is okay, and we're going to try and connect you with some resource providers. But if you're interested in specific county program dollars, you have to fill out that survey. The number, if you're interested in calling, again, is 216-452-9714. And so with the stabilization fund, the goal is going to be to try and, again, help individuals that we know are trying to access federal resources, may have some barriers in accessing those resources, and then also to connect with individuals that are just saying, I filled out the application for the federal resources, but it's taking so long that I have an immediate need today. I'm going to have to not be able to do my business if I can't get, some resources in the next couple of weeks. And so we are urgently trying to get this off the ground, but we also understand that we don't want to have some of the false starts like things we've seen at the federal level. So sometimes in moving quickly, then you have to backstep. And we know that Cuyahoga County is a pretty intense county. We don't have time to go backstep. Y'all gonna come for us. So we're gonna get it right so we can roll it out properly and make sure it's easy for people to access and doesn't become another thing that causes our small business owners anxiety. So just in your specific questions, Tiffany, about resources for solopreneurs, micro enterprises, 1099, the final program that
before you go there, thank you, because I'd like to halfway through this session be able to provide contact information for people, because sometimes our attention span can't go the whole distance. And so
Sure.
As always, as I'm doing these, please feel free to reach out to myself. You can always reach me at asktiffanyh@gmail.com. Again, asktiffanyh@gmail.com. You can follow me on Instagram at ask_Tiffany H on Instagram. Danielle, if you can provide your contact information of how they can reach you and additional resources that you provide at ECDI as well.
Yep. And so if I can just tell Christy, you're missing the .us after Cuyahoga County on the website. So it's cuyahogacounty.us/help for business. But my contact information, no problem. And if anybody gets lost, if you just go right to the county website, you will be able to navigate to that page as well. But that's the direct link. But my contact information, you can reach me via email at dsydnor@ecdi.org. So just my first initial and my last name. So dsydnor@ecdi.org. On social media, Danny J82 personally. And then you have ECDI Northern, and you would be able to find, again, more resources there on that on our website and on our social media as well. Our website is ecdi.org.
Awesome. And so that was the contact information, just so that we can categorize this. You are getting ready to share information specifically for micro enterprises, correct?
Yes.
Okay.
So the first loan that came out was the economic injury disaster loan. And so short acronym, people will call it the EIDL, which is just EIDL. So the EIDL loan, after March the 27th, they added a provision that you could get up to a $10,000 advance on that EIDL loan. And then they came out last week with more specifics on how that grant was determined. It is determined by the number of employees that you have. So the advice that we were given is some people completed those applications, weeks ago, and then things have continued to change. So if you completed the application before March the 27th, that means you never applied for that grant advance because it wasn't an option. So if you applied before the 27th, you have not received a decision yet from the SBA, we're encouraging you to go back on and apply again so you can indicate that you're interested in the advance. The way the advance is determined is by the number of employees. So if you're a solopreneur, you need to indicate that you have one employee. You are the employee of the business. So we know oftentimes solopreneurs will say, I have 0 employees. Well, then that would, as they calculate it, make you not eligible for any of the advance because you said you have no employees. So you should always count yourself as an employee on all of these applications that are coming down, whether you're a 1099, you're a solo entrepreneur, self-employed, however you do your taxes, you are the employee. The $10,000 up to $10,000 advance based on the number of employees is also attached to another program that came down through the CARES Act, which is the Paycheck Protection Program. That many times, again, you'll hear people say P3 just because after you say PPP enough times, you get tired of saying PPP. So P3 is what you will hear from most of us if you call in and you're asking questions about it. And the P3 program, again, is designed to keep people on the payroll. So if you are the employee, it's designed to keep you on the payroll. Now, the big caveat with this one is that program initially was allocated for $350 billion. And that's a nationwide program. When it initially launched, April the 3rd, I believe, was the first day that it was active. Bank of America was the first institution that made it available. By the weekend, Bank of America had taken in like $35 billion in applications by themselves. And so Congress realized that they likely needed to come back and be able to try and appropriate more dollars for that program because there was so much demand. So it is one that I'm really telling people, like, you got to be patient with PPP because every lending institution that is a certified SBA 7A lender has the choice on whether or not they want to participate. Many of those that did choose to participate realized that demand superseded what they had in terms of staffing capacity to process applications. And so many of those that have dollars to lend have kind of put a pause and said, let us get caught up with the applications that we have, and then we'll start accepting more in. So one of the provisions that we're working on through the Small Business Stabilization Fund with Cuyahoga County is to have a dedicated lender that will work with our entrepreneurs on the P3 program. Because we have a number of entrepreneurs who are small, and if you think about capitalism, whether we all like it or not, many of the lending institutions, the major ones, are going after their largest clients first. And so that means that our small micro enterprises, our self-employed folks are, being left behind. And so at a county level, we're working on that. We understand that there is a need and demand for that resource. And so part of the tool that we're building is to be able to try and help facilitate some people getting access that way as well. But the P3 program has very specific uses. It is very detailed in how you calculate it. You have to look at your average payroll for the last 12 months. And for those that are not using payroll services, we can help connect you with accountants and other individuals who are doing that. We're not going to give you tax advice. And I think Tiffany talked about it earlier. If you haven't done those things yet, many accountants that I've talked to, they're like, we actually have some time because now that the deadline has been pushed back to July the 15th, people are like dug in, focusing on other things. And so many who might have been very occupied right now have some more free time to be able to help you calculate your payroll costs and those things. Because for the P3 program, it is a forgivable loan so long as you use the dollars appropriately. And that's what we're really trying to drive home to people. You must use the dollars for eligible payroll related expenses. Up to 25% can be used for things like rent or mortgage expense, and that full amount would still be forgivable. So the paperwork that's going to be required on the back end in order for you to get that forgiveness is going to be proof that you did actually use the dollars for payroll. So to your earlier statement about when you get these resources, it's not to do all these other things, especially with some of these federal programs. Whatever you say you're going to use the money for, that's what it needs to go to, because we're already hearing that the inspector general is likely going to come in, investigate, and make sure that people did kind of what they said they were going to do with these resources, because there's so much that's being pushed out. So those are the high level programs that are available. The P3 program, and the final thing I'll add is just unemployment. We know that many folks who are independent contractors, self-employed, stylists, barbers, beauticians, all of those things that maybe don't traditionally pay into unemployment. One of the provisions under the CARES Act was to actually make those different gig workers or self-employed people have access to unemployment. The challenge with anything that comes down from the federal government is if it needs to be administered by the state, which unemployment is, it's administered at the state level. The state has to be able to get to the place where they have their own provisions written in to be able to deliver that program. And so each state is in a different situation. Governor DeWine at the beginning of this crisis said that he was eliminating the 1 week waiting period for what normally happens with unemployment, that he was also going to make resources available to self-employed people. I was on a call last week with the Secretary of State, and he indicated that they're trying to get some of their workers who aren't used to working from home on certain devices on board with doing this. So just like all of us are kind of in crisis, our government is also managing through crisis, and people who are usually in an office with all their supplies are doing what we're doing today, working from home and trying to deliver services to people. So no, it doesn't get us the resources any faster, but I can tell you on all the calls that I've been on, everybody is committed to trying to make this happen as quickly as possible. And Tiffany talked about both of our backgrounds being in finance. And I say all the time, now during a crisis is not the time to tell somebody, I'm going to teach you how to swim. Like if you're drowning, I shouldn't look at the edge of the pool and say, well, if you knew how to swim, you wouldn't be here. I'm going to throw you a life raft, which is what we're trying to do today. But I really want to encourage all of us to spend some time with folks like Tiffany and others who are putting out good information about personal financial choices that we make. One of the foundational principles of personal finance is having that emergency fund 3 to 6 months. No, that's not going to be enough to survive a lifetime. But many times when you're waiting on federal type programs, it may take 3 or 6 months before you actually get those resources, even if they do give them back to you in the arrears. So as we come out of this crisis, and I got my NAACP shirt on today. So I would say as a Black community, we do have to make sure that we have to be here to save ourselves. I know you have a diverse, broad audience, Tiffany, that you connect with. And I think everybody, should reinforce that message as well. It's going to be a community-wide effort. And let's make sure we're looking out for each other as we get information. Share good information, fact check it, and share it with your folks, because everybody is, relying on each other right now to figure out how we should be navigating through this crisis.
Absolutely. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. And for those who are in, thank you for your comments and letting me know that you're here. Please, if you have some questions, please drop your questions at the bottom. It is very important and critical that we can be a resource and value to one another. And so, Danielle, I thank you so much. And we're going to ask a couple of questions, but I wanted to make sure that I can have a moment to kind of sometimes summarize some of these items that you share with us so that we can kind of make them a little more applicable to ourselves.
Sure.
One, also, we have to realize, and I've talked about this several times before, this is times like this when it's the value of a relationship that is so important. When we've become such a transient society, we can do everything electronically. We don't think about having a relationship with our bank.
Mm-hmm.
Why that's important. They talked about, here's a new type of loan also for people who are 1099. You're able to present your 1099, get a loan, but there's only a few banks that are doing that. To my understanding, now the branches are closed. I had to call my banker who I have a relationship with at Huntington and say, hey, can I, and they said, unfortunately, Huntington, I'm sorry, but they said, I don't think that we're participating in that just yet. It was just yet. So I said, okay. So I called PNC. I said, PNC, I have a relationship with you. They said, oh yeah, we're doing 1099, but we're only doing it for people who have business relationships with us. And so I had a personal account and relationship with them, but I didn't have any of my business relationships with them. So ouch, right? I called Chase. And they didn't answer because they was out, but I shot an email. I'm sure they'll get back with me with whom I do. So again, this is the power of having relationships. And so if you don't have it today, please institute those relationships, because banks are deciding to provide these resources to people that they already have relationships with. So that's critical. So when it talked about the unemployment, and I shared this before, we have to be mindful and remember this is the first time this country has really have been experienced something like this in many, many years. I know we've had the Spanish flu, whatever, and a lot of those were the economy and population was much smaller, world was much different, but to this magnitude. And so believe me, regardless of how cumbersome things are, the federal government and our local government are really trying to do the things necessary to assist. It's just that we're going to have a slight pinch before we can get to it. And during that pinch is why it's important to do the things that I talked about before. Call your creditors and say, just give me a little help. Call your car people, just give me a little help. Call your mortgage company, because if you could just weather the 1 or 2 months of the pinch until it's all figured out, then we can go back and readjust and catch up. Then we talked about the credit, like until they figure it out, we might have a bump along the way, but things will work out where we can come back and address some of those. And so it's really important that whether it's myself or we go to ECDI or whatever, that when we hear information, yes, please fact check it, take it, read the link, see what's going on, and provide that information that can be out there to be tools of resources, because it's important. And so with that, here is a question that I'm sorry, I'm gonna just show it right quick so I don't have to try to read it right quick and see if we can. I didn't get about you on a, so Deanna, hold 1 second, I'm gonna get to you also. But here it says, what if you were in the process of working on a loan since 2019, how do you check your progress?
So if that's I'm assuming a loan specifically with ECDI, blessings, if that's the case, if you want to drop me an email, I will touch base with my team internally and we can figure out where you are in the process. So for existing businesses, we are still, from an ECDI perspective, we're still making loans to individuals who have existing businesses because, again, you have the cash that you need to be able to keep employees on payroll. Maybe you're a restaurant that had to pivot from sit down to take out only, and you're doing some things from that standpoint. On a limited basis, we are actually still approving some startups. So I can give you some examples of things that might make sense. If you had a cleaning company and all of a sudden you're awarded contracts to do more cleaning as a result of COVID-19, that would make sense for us to still be doing small business lending to very specific industries. If you're an industry that you're looking to start up, but you can't open your physical doors, then we're going to have a hard time being able to see how that cash flow might work, because at the end of the day, it's still a loan, and we need to ensure that we're not helping to accelerate someone going into debt unnecessarily. So please, blessings, if that was specifically about an ECDI loan, if you shoot me an email, I'll make sure that we get followed up today.
So we have a question here, great info. Does property managers or real estate investors qualify for the grants or loans?
Yeah, so we don't have right now any specific industry that is eliminated from accessing the grants or loans outside of those that would traditionally not be able to from like SBA. So that would be like liquor stores can't, if your primary function of business is in the sex industry, right? Those are like the general things. Those industries are not eligible for the grants or loans. But other than that, yes, property managers, essentially what it is, you have to be able to demonstrate that you've had some sort of hardship as a result of COVID-19. And so to your question, Deanna, everybody broadly has been impacted, some industries earlier than others. And so, again, as we're looking at the limited resources, there will be some acknowledgement of that, especially in the state of Ohio, Governor DeWine kind of methodically went down a path of which businesses were closed first. And so being able to understand that some folks, there are some businesses that are continuing to operate, maybe at less revenue than others, and some who have had 100% loss of revenue as a result of COVID.
Awesome. Thank you. Again, if you have any questions, please do drop your questions out here. We would love to answer them. One of the things I would
Can I
also,
give that website one more time? Because I just want to make sure. I don't know if you have any new folks that have checked in,
yes,
but
can you?
if those, just to that specific question, if you visit cuyahogacounty.us/help for business, so the /help for business, please, 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 if you're interested, complete that small business pre-application survey. That's going to be the first thing that pops up when that web page comes up, because again, the county executive likely will be announcing details on Friday, and so we expect that people are going to be flooding in to complete those applications. So I would encourage all of Tiffany's followers to get on and get in there early, so that way, as we're going through and kind of making final determinations, we have a nice reach of folks in our community who get access to this.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. And thank you for providing that information. She stated, by the way, Citizens Bank is taking PPP for solopreneurs, independent contractors, and gig workers. So thank you very much for sharing that information out there. And again, as we begin to wrap up, there are additional resources that are available from other entities that are non-governmental. There is, and I'm probably going to mess this up, sorry, because I was supposed to write it down, I didn't. It's Sheen Beautiful. It's a cosmetic company who have been making grants available for small businesses. And you don't have to be the beauty or barber salon, they're just making them. There's a whole host of corporate citizens who are making dollars available in the forms of grants. And so it's a little bit about being a little diligent, and because times are slow, we should take this and kind of maximize to see what resources are out there to apply for them and take advantage of them as needed, because the whole world is actually gathering up to try to help provide stability across the board. And so that's really great. But if you reach out to me, while I have access to a lot of those corporations who are providing grants, I can provide that information to you as well. So again, as we provide contact information, you can reach me at asktiffanyh@gmail.com. You can reach out to me, of course, here on Facebook. My business profile is Ask Tiffany H. And on Instagram at ask_Tiffany H. Again, if you reach out to me, I will provide additional resources. I am going to ask always, because we live in this world of social media, you have no idea the power of, if you stopped in, please stop and take a moment to like this video, comment, and share. This information only grows wings if we participate in this thing called social media and put it out there in the stratosphere. With that being said, Danielle, if you can one more time provide your contact information, ECDI's contact information, the hotline number, and the website.
Sure. So the hotline number is 216-452-9714. And the web address is cuyahogacounty.us/help for business. My email address is dsydnor, which is SYDNOR @ecdi.org. And that would be the best way to contact me. You can also reach me on social media. Instagram is DannyJ82, and Facebook is just Danielle Sydnor.
Awesome. I don't see any other emails. Questions. Thank you very much for everybody that came out and support. Thank you for checking in and making a comment to let me know that you're here. We will respond out. I did see a comment requesting if we will provide this information with other organizations. And Ms. Boone, absolutely, please. We would love to share information with your organization. If anyone else know of any other organizations that would this additional information, please do reach out and let me know. This is the 5th information session that I've done. It's kind of the 7th because I miscounted some other ones along the way, as this has been just happenstance to get information and I want to be able to share it in, social media live is the, the way to be able to get out here and provide this information relatively quickly. And so please take a moment and view some of my other ones. Get me to the end of this week. I do have a YouTube channel, which is Ask Tiffany H. If you could go to that channel, all of these previous provided Facebook Lives, as well as some other things will be out there for you to look through, so you don't have to start constantly be scrolling through my page. So technology is challenging because these files are a little long. So it takes me a moment to be able to get them uploaded. And I'm not the best at technology. I'm getting there. So they will be up there. So please feel free to reach out to either one of us. Please feel free to reach out to me to be able to get this information to you. Please share with any small business, micro enterprise, entrepreneur, hairdresser, barber, all of those, they own restaurants or whatever, so that we can get information out to them. Danielle, thank you so very much. I appreciate
no problem.
Being available to reach out and provide information and doing this with me. We've always been able to kind of get together, so I appreciate,
No
knowledge at this moment as well. And so everyone, have a wonderful day. Make it a great Tuesday. Again, please like, comment, and share this information. Contact me if you have any additional request information, and stay tuned to the next information soon. Thank you.
Thanks.
Okay.